There's now a bounty of evidence that creatine actually also supports cognitive function.
I think creatine is something right now that's widely thought of as like the bodybuilding supplement.
The Alzheimer's field has been rife with fraud. There have been other papers exploring how creatine might play a therapeutic role for a patient with Alzheimer's disease, but the first clinical trial was just published, and it's incredible.
I believe the pendulum's going to swing back into reasonable, thought-based care that actually is sensible, just common sense.
There are many industries, many individuals that stand to gain from gatekeeping knowledge. It's corrupt that people would want the public to be gatekept from this kind of information.
You're not trying to say that there's corruption in our nutritional research, are you, Max?
Creatine has long been known as the supplement for athletes and bodybuilders. But what if it could do much more? For years, Max Lugavere has been on a mission sparked by his mother's battle with a neurodegenerative disease. His journey led him deep into the science of brain health, nutrition, and prevention. Now, new research is revealing something incredible. Creatine may play a role in protecting the brain, supporting cognitive function, and even offering hope for conditions like Alzheimer's disease. In this video, Max breaks down the very first clinical trial exploring creatine for Alzheimer's, what the results mean, and why the fight for accessible, honest health information matters more than ever. This isn't just about supplements. It's about taking control of your health, your future, and your purpose. Let's dive in.
We must be doing something right to have gotten this incredible opportunity to be here, and I'm so grateful. I mean, for me, it all goes back to my why. I think you always have to remind yourself in these moments why it is that you are doing what you do. And for me, 12 years ago now, when my mom was first diagnosed with a neurodegenerative condition, I was completely in the dark, totally lost.
Yeah.
And everything that has unfolded subsequently, all the knowledge that I've been humbled to have accrued, and all the experts that I've spoken to, it's, I guess, led to this moment.
Yeah.
And it's just wonderful. Yeah, so the first ever clinical trial testing creatine in the setting of Alzheimer's disease was just published. There have been other papers mechanistically exploring how creatine might play a therapeutic role for a patient with Alzheimer's disease, but the first clinical trial was just published, and it's incredible. Now, there are some important caveats. It was a small trial, about 20 patients. It was a single arm, so there was no placebo group. But as a pilot trial to test the feasibility, to test the safety, the results were pretty impressive. So basically took 20 patients with Alzheimer's disease and put them on a 20-gram dose of creatine every day.
Wow.
Now, that's a big dose.
So it's about 4 times what they would recommend. Some proponents of creatine would recommend creatine loading, so like 30 days of high dose and then backing down to 5 milligrams. So this is 20 milligrams a day.
Right. So the thinking is that over a certain period of time, muscles will saturate with creatine. If you're taking 3 to 5 grams a day, it takes about 28 days. If you choose not to do the loading period, for your muscles to fully saturate with creatine for a ergogenic benefit or performance boosting benefit. But there's now a bounty of evidence mounting showing us that creatine actually also supports cognitive function, mental health.
Right.
But it's unclear at this point how much creatine one needs to take in order for that creatine to be pushed to the brain.
Right.
Because at the dietary levels meet the muscle saturation needs. So it's actually been shown that vegans and omnivores don't differ in terms of their brain creatine saturation.
Oh, wow.
So the dietary levels don't seem to modulate brain levels.
Wow, I would have thought the opposite, actually.
That's what I thought. Yeah. That's what I think a lot of people thought.
Yeah, I would have thought the meat eaters would have adequate levels of creatine.
Right, because meat eaters ingest it through their diets, right? And vegans obviously don't, because creatine is a carnonutrient. It's found exclusively in animal source foods. Meat and beef, red meat and fish specifically. But now we're starting to understand that actually it takes a much higher dose to actually push creatine to the brain. It seems to be preferentially sucked up by the muscles. But if you take a high enough dose, a supplementary dose, then it seems to get pushed up to the brain. And we kind of had an inkling of this when there was that study published about a year ago.
Yeah, we talked heavily
sleep
about
deprivation. Yeah, when you would take like a really high dose of creatine, it seemed to have an acute beneficial effect on cognitive function for someone who is sleep deprived.
Right.
But now, thanks to this new trial that was published, we've seen that when patients, again, it was a short-term study, lasted about 20 weeks, or I'm sorry, eight weeks. 8
Okay,
weeks.
8
I'm sorry,
weeks,
8
okay.
weeks. 20 patients, 8 weeks. So again, small, 20 grams a day. They saw a statistically significant improvement across pretty much every cognitive score.
Wow.
Yeah.
But creatine seems to be one of those that falls into the category of there is indirect and direct, anecdotal, objective, and subjective evidence that says this is beneficial for men and women, and certainly in older ages seems to be more beneficial because of the depletion and the lack of absorption. And so now we have a trial that says, hey, across nearly every, cognitive measurement, this is having an acute, positive effect.
Yeah. Now, it would be amazing to have had a placebo group. It would be amazing to see if we see significant cognition improvements at lower doses, because 20 grams, again, is a high dose. Anybody who's ever had to suck down, 20 grams of creatine sand.
It is a sand,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you're 1,000% correct in that. First of all, I mean, my work has been, and we talked about this on the last time I was on your show, there's been, the Alzheimer's field has been rife with fraud.
Yes.
And
It really has.
yes. And
disease.
creatine, mechanistically, it's literally getting to the one of the root causes of the condition, which we believe to be an inability of the brain to properly generate energy. So
Yeah.
creatine it helps the brain. It's involved in neuroenergetics.
Yeah.
The brain's ability to generate ATP, which is its energetic currency. And in Alzheimer's disease, there's an inability, a stark inability for the brain to properly generate ATP from its primary fuel substrate, which is glucose. So with creatine, the thinking is you're actually getting to the root cause, as opposed to these anti-amyloid drugs like lecanemab and aducanumab, which are just attacking this sort of downstream, phenomena, this amyloid plaque buildup,
Right.
which is not a free ride. I mean,
Yeah.
the risks are significant: brain swelling, brain bleeds, and even death in some of these trials. I mean, I would have loved to have explored creatine as an option,
Right.
with my mom. We obviously didn't have this data back when she was alive, and it's unfortunate. The drugs that she were prescribed, I mean, were little more than biochemical Band-Aids, and I don't think that they helped her at all. In fact, I think they probably contributed to her net decline over time. But, these drugs, I mean, these creatine it's not a cure. My whole purpose has been and which is, I think, part of why we've gathered here today for this event, is to really shift the spotlight to prevention, which I think is
And awareness too,
Yeah.
right? Because I think we are a lot more in control of our destiny than we think we are. I think as humanity, and sadly, folks like you and I are somewhat in a little bit of an echo chamber, because the people that are listening to us and are in our peer groups are becoming more and more aware, and we're accepting of this. But my message has always been to try to get this to the masses, to really push this down into humanity, so that at a basic level, people can get a fundamental understanding of what they can do, so they can feel. I think people feel a little out of control with their healthcare choices. Like it's actually not their choice. They don't have any governance over it.
Yeah, well, there are many industries, many individuals that stand to gain from gatekeeping knowledge, gatekeeping scientific
You're not
literacy.
trying to say that there's corruption in our
There's
nutritional
absolutely
research, are you, Max?
It's not just corruption. I mean, it's corrupt that people would want the public to be gate kept from this kind of information. But we live in an incredible time. I mean, if you're not optimistic today, you're just not paying attention.
Yeah.
We have all of the world's knowledge at our fingertips 24 hours a day. We have access to PubMed.
Yeah.
We have access to AI.
Yeah.
I mean, my own scientific literacy and health has improved thanks to my access to these large language models. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And so I think it's such an auspicious time to be alive and to really seize the reins of your health. And that's why I think everything converged to allow a day like today to happen.
Yeah.
There's so many aspects of, whether it's technological advancement, our collective optimism, our collective desire to shake up the status quo.
Yep.
That's paved the way for a day like today, and it's momentous.
Yeah, definitely a parabolic rise in awareness. And for folks like you and I to potentially be a small part of affecting public policy. I mean, we're talking about generational changes, our children's children, our children's grandchildren that will benefit from it. And it's sad that the pendulum had to swing so far that it went from the sublime to the ridiculous to the totally absurd. And now I believe the pendulum's going to swing back into the middle, into reasonable, thought-based care that actually is sensical, just common sense.
Common sense.
It's astounding to me when I travel the world how people don't believe that just getting back to the simple basics of your habitual patterns during the day can have just this dramatic effect on the long-term trajectory of your health. Man, I wish we had more time.
Yeah, brother.
Dude, but sharing this moment with you, you and I have been on this journey. You're a pioneer in the industry. I quote you all the time on a lot of my podcasts, and I wish you the best in your journey.
Likewise. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, thanks for being a
proud to be a foot soldier on the ground with you and everybody involved. This is not a. There's one of my favorite lines from David Mitchell, who is the author of Cloud Atlas. I am but one drop in an endless ocean, yet what is any ocean but a multitude of drops?